Hi, I want to do a video today about how I believe that the persecution of healers and alternative medicine, which has happened in the past, mainly in the 1600s in Europe. I believe the wound of that is coming up now to be cleared. And I will explain a bit more what I mean by that. So, yesterday I turned on the news on my laptop, which I don't often do. But I thought, let me just see what the news are saying. If there's anything useful to take from it. Usually I don't watch the mainstream news. Anyway, and they mentioned a gathering of people in Stockholm, where I live, that happened this weekend. And I didn't know about it until a day after, when they mentioned it on the news. And this was a demonstration, which is fairly normal in Sweden and in European countries, or at least used to be. It was a gathering of people, different people from different groups. It wasn't really any particular group. It was quite a kind of eclectic mix of people, different views and so on. But anyway, they all are against, or demonstrated against, the new laws that we now have since January in Sweden, that, for example, it forbids us to gather more than 8 people at a time in organized settings, or even in public, as I understand, even outside. So obviously, by gathering to demonstrate their unhappiness with this, they also broke this new law, because there were at least a few hundred people, 1,000, I'm not sure. Anyway, it's not really what I want to talk about as such in this video, but something got my attention, and the way they described the different groups that attended and also organized this gathering. Some of them were from what you might call the alternative medicine, holistic health scene. And it's not said out loud on the news that this is something that is wrong, or that this is something that people shouldn't be doing. But there is a kind of understated, how should I say this? There is a kind of undercurrent of these people are not quite believable. These people are doing things that are a little bit out of the box, that shouldn't really be, that should be, or often is, rightly so. I'm now talking not from my perspective, but from the mainstream perspective. I get a feeling that it is seen as something, alternative medicine is seen as something that shouldn't be credible, that isn't credible. People can do it, but it's not quite, you know, I'm talking in riddles, but I think you get what I mean. So basically, yeah, also, I'm not saying anything in terms of, I'm not even talking about the politics in this video, but, you know, these people gathered to protest against freedoms being taken away, and how dare they, right? Anyway, practicing these alternative medicine healing modalities nowadays, in a place like Sweden, it is not going to lead to full-on persecution and even death, and burning at the stake like it used to in the 1600s. But I think this is coming up now, and the kind of questioning again, or the mainstream questioning of these modalities is coming up again, so that we can clear this wound of what happened to some of our ancestors and to us, in terms of many of us may have lived as some of these healers in the past. And so what I wanted to say first is that I know some might say that, well, religion doesn't have a hold like it used to. These people in the past were persecuted by the church, which was a part of the state. And whether it was the Catholic Church or even the Lutheran Church in Sweden, because it was already Lutheran or Protestant. And the church doesn't have that hold anymore, so how can we compare? And I'm not even comparing. But nowadays it's not the church, it's the new religion, you could say, of science, mainstream science. I am not, by the way, let's just make it clear, I am not anti-science in any way. I think science can be a wonderful thing. But religious devotion and belief, religious being not questioning or being devoted to a certain way of thinking, and maybe losing our capacity to question. So that's my definition anyway of religious devotion to any belief. That is always problematic, whether it's a religion that we have a religious devotion to, or like an actual belief in a spiritual system, or whether it's another system that we have a religious almost devotion to, in a way that we lose our ability to question it. And I think sometimes it feels like science is this new religion. So in the history of the persecution of people, mainly women, but also some men, but let's be clear, mainly women in Europe, who practiced alternative medicine, and also others who didn't even practice alternative medicine but were persecuted as witches and accused of being in communion with the devil and all sorts. I've been led to look into this more and more and to read books that have to do with this. So this happened mainly, what I've been reading about happened mainly in the 1600s, and this was pretty much all over Europe, and it spread to Sweden as well. You can call it the Witch Craze, and there was a law that was passed. I'm not sure if this was used in Sweden as such, even though I think some of the laws or the persecution laws that happened in Europe kind of spread to Sweden. But there was a law anyway that was introduced by the institutional church at the time that said that any woman who dared cure without having studied was a witch and must die. Of course, women were not allowed to study at the universities, so yeah. Now, this is of course not happening now in a place like Sweden, for example. We can practice alternative thought, alternative medicine without fear of persecution, and death. Well, persecution, I mean, that depends on how you define persecution, but we do not have to fear being burnt at the stake, which was the real fear in the 1600s. So I'm not at all in any way saying or suggesting that things are worse now or things were better in the past in history, or that things are getting worse. Not at all. That does not mean that we should accept necessarily things that go against our values of our freedom of individual expression, and anything that shows that we're going in any direction where that is happening, we would benefit from questioning, I believe. But things were much worse in the 1600s when it came to these things. Even so my point with this video is basically this. From a higher perspective, right now, according to a lot of astrological predictions, I'm not an astrologer, but from teachers that I listen to, as well as different astrological systems, we are entering out of one age and entering into another astrological age. An age being, there are different types of ages, but the last 2,000 to 3,000 years is, well, what is called in the Eastern tradition, it's called Kali Yuga, and you can also call it the Dark Ages. Now, right now, some of these things are kind of from the Dark Ages, are in a way, they're not being exacerbated because it's not as bad as it used to be, but they are being brought up again from the collective subconscious, if you like, to be seen, to the conscious realm in the collective. So we're going through a type of purging phase of the paradigm of the Dark Ages. So we're basically clearing the wounds of the last 2,000 to 3,000 years. And I feel this on a personal level. I have this persecution wound. It's partially healed, but I'm working on it. And I think that's why some of these things are coming up for me to look at, like the persecution of mainly women healers and wise women and folk healers in, for example, the 1600s in Sweden and in Europe. And I think, you know, this kind of questioning, whenever we feel that we're being questioned because we're healing in a how should I say, in an alternative way, and we might not be trained in the societally acceptable way, which is through universities and having a kind of paper and permission, if you like, from society to heal or to cure. That is not to say that medicine, scientific medicine, or kind of mainstream medicine is wrong, or that it's not either or. It's, you know, this questioning of alternative medicine, the traditional folk medicine that our ancestors practiced, and people went to in Sweden, even up until the 1800s, the end of the 1800s, people went to the village wise woman to be healed of different ailments, or to get help with different ailments. And the questioning of these modalities that are coming up again and are spreading again, and rightly so, and the questioning of that, and when we feel questioned for that, it brings up these old wounds, these old ancestral wounds or soul wounds, that we are not safe practicing our traditional medicinal practices, like herbal medicine, like alternative healing, hands-on healing, outside of the boxed in trained professions. Now, the reality, obviously, when we really look at it, is that we are safe now. We are safe in 2021, and for some time now, we are safe practicing these things. But these wounds still come up when we are being questioned, or not that we shouldn't be questioned. We should always question everything, even alternative medicine in some ways. But when we're being questioned or being discredited, or people are trying to discredit, or society is trying to discredit our way of being and our practices, then these old wounds come up again. And that is perfectly as it should be, because they come up to be cleared, and we are the ones that can clear them. Yeah, I think that's it for today. I'm not going to ramble on about that. I think I'll have quite a bit more to say, and I'll probably make other videos that touches on this subject. But that's all I wanted to say for today. And thank you for listening if you made it this far. Bye.